Thousands of angry villagers marched in protest in southern China Monday. They called for action after local officials ignored their grievances over land grab disputes. According to an eyewitness, 4,000 villagers and farmers from Wuhan had surrounded the government headquarters in Lufeng City. They demand the return of land they say was illegally seized. One villager, surnamed Zhang, says authorities failed to tackle what he describes as collusion between developers and local officials. He accused the government of lying to the people. Hundreds of Lufeng residents ransacked government offices 2 months ago in a flare-up over the same issue. Rural land grab disputes are hitting new highs in China and spreading to the undeveloped west of the country, according to Chinese media.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to Global Government News. Today is Monday, November 28th, 2011, and I'm Darko. This is the final part for today, part 3 of these news bulletins. This is my website, ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. Also on YouTube, you can check out my YouTube channel or page. It's ddarko2012. Also over here, I just posted a poll today. 5 people have voted on it so far. How would you react to an attack and / invasion by a, quote, foreign nation, i.e. Iran, China? So far, nobody's voting for joining the military to fight the, quote, attacker. But one person says that they would join a non-governmental militia to fight the attacker. That's 20%. 60% say refuse to join and fight on religious or philosophical grounds. And then we have 20% saying that they would join the attackers / invaders. So you can go in there and check that out if you'd like to. You can receive updates from GGN via email, so just put in your email address there. And yeah, okay, so I have a news archive there. Global Government News has a group on Facebook, and there's a donate button here if you'd like to help me out with that, or on YouTube and YouTube's video description. Okay, I have to go through that for new time listeners. Okay, so I just want to put it out there real quick that GGN is, I was thinking about it the other day, it's actually not for waking people up. It's for people that are already woken up, and it just basically provides an arsenal of facts and information at their disposal. So I'm going to be building basically a database, working with someone else, a doctor, and that to build a database of all of these links that I've been posting for the past 2 years. God knows how many there are. There's about, per set of videos, 3 or 4 videos, there's got to be about 150 every time I post a news bulletin. So, I mean, there's got to be at least, 5,000 sources. I'm going to categorize them all. I'm going to publish them online. So that's the gist of it, and I'll go through the headlines, and I'll give a brief comment if I want to. But I'm going to move on here. Oh, just one side note, too. I'm sorry. This part 2 of the GGN News Bulletin, FEMA camps are taking reservations, is not playing right now. So, and I've made a conscious effort to kind of actually hold back. I've been trying not to swear or anything or try to pick sides or get emotional. And so I don't know what it was that I did. There's no content in there for copyright infringement, so they're just not playing it. YouTube is. So if you can, please go in there and start commenting or something. Do something to help me out with that, because that was a good video and I did back it up, and I'll keep uploading it, but it's not playing for whatever reason. So 6th earthquake in 4 days recorded in Oklahoma. So another small earthquake has been reported in Oklahoma. And does it say anything in here about what is it, fracking? No, they didn't. Because remember, November 5th, that was definitely a fracking earthquake, 5.6. You had Dutch Sense go in there and show you just a plethora of these facilities that are using these fracking methods. And they're causing earthquakes. And the mainstream bullshit media propaganda is not going to tell you that. So moving on here, we have this. Report investors, China buying up U.S. farmland at alarming. So not only are the Chinese government or regime or the elites or dynasty, whatever they want to call themselves, are stealing land from people, from Chinese citizens and farmers and that in rural areas. But the Indians are doing it as well. But the Chinese are also going in there and buying up U.S. farmland at an alarming rate. And I've covered this before, where basically, it was a Reuters article too, where saying, oh, the old days of the family farmer are over. Well, guess who's coming in? Monsanto and the Chinese and other different countries, which are companies. Chile police clash with Mapuche Indians. So it goes down here and says the police have taken action against these Indians who are holding a demonstration south of Santiago to protest the planned construction of an airport on their territory. Remember, we were covering before where they're trying to build a road through these people's lands, and they were protesting fiercely against it. I'm not sure where it was. I think it was Peru. Pope calls, and remember the assassination down there in South America as well. Pope calls for responsible, credible climate deals. So the Pope Benedict, the real president of the global government, called Sunday for delegates attending this week's United Nations Climate Change Conference in South Africa. Then we have anger at aid to help Africa cope with climate change as UK faces economic meltdown. Ministers hand over £330 million. That's right. Remember I just said there's 100,000 Britons starving right now, and 100,000 public sector jobs were just cut, right? But no, they'll wage wars. They'll do whatever they gotta do, and they'll just take $330 million from money that was going to go towards, say, a person that's retired that needs that money to eat and to survive, literally to survive, so they don't die and freeze in the cold, which is happening more and more every winter because of climate change like that. But it's going towards this. It's going towards Africa, which is going to go towards what? Eugenics. Then we have Nestle to act over child labor in cocoa industry. So global food giant Nestle says it has taken a major step to end child labor on cocoa farms supplying its factory. So there you go Nestle. Caribou supposedly roasted by global warming found unharmed. So goes in here and it says scientists find the herd of lost caribou in Saskatchewan, kind of like the polar bears who can't swim, yet hey, they're the strongest swimmers in the world. It says here Climategate scientists did collude with government officials to hide research that didn't fit their apocalyptic global warming. Briefly, experts were under orders from US and UK officials to come up with a strong message, a fear-mongering message, right? Just come up with anything. And I've already talked about this, about the Club of Rome's statement saying they just needed to come up with something to scare people so that they can blame humanity on it. And they're talking about human man-made climate change. Well, it is. Remember I've mentioned this before, and I'll keep mentioning it over and over and over again, which is that it is man-made climate change. That is true. There is warming going on, but it's being done through the spraying of barium, aluminum oxides, nanoparticles, all sorts of different chemicals and concoctions, and this is what it looks like. But then when, like I said, you go into the propaganda mouthpieces such as Bloomberg, Reuters, AP, and they're going to tell you this: bullshit. Breathtaking, world's 25 most beautiful polluted sunsets. So air pollution, tiny particles and droplets of acid, organic chemicals, metals, and dust. Well, they're right. That's what it is. Kills about 1.3 billion people worldwide every year. So yeah, and they're going to go and tell you that you need to pay a carbon tax and blah, 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 while they're spraying. So you want to see some more beautiful sunsets? Yeah, chemtrails, see? That's a polluted sunset. Those are actually chemtrails. You can actually see the satellite transmissions and all the different electromagnetic frequencies that are being pulsed on the Mother Earth and harming her and harming its inhabitants, the humans, and all the animals and the fish, harming us all. We are all being victimized by this, and yet they want to call it pollution, to blame you, to make you feel guilty so you can pay a CO2 tax so that you can die, because you won't have any money left over after all these policies are implemented. So there you go. You can see it nice and being pulsed. There's another nice chemical sunset as well. Illinois Republican wants to make Chicago area the 51st state. Well, this is the reason, because most cities will become basically their own countries and states. You've heard Alan Watt talk about this before, I'm sure, if you've ever heard him before, but that's what it's aiming at. It's talking about these mega cities like Brzezinski, talking about pulsing the entire cities with psychotronic warfare to manipulate the people's behavior, right, to pacify them and stuff, or make them more angry, whatever they want to do, to get a desired result, problem, reaction, solution. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Chicago made into its own state. Pope Benedict, and of course all the rural areas are going to be hollowed out and owned by Monsanto, and like I said, barbed wire fences and drones around there protecting it from the underground people who don't want to be a part of these megacities. Pope Benedict arrives in Benin, home of Voodoo. So the Pope isn't only the president of the global government, but he's also kind of the head of the Luciferian little cabal, or I don't know what to call it, cartel of Luciferians. So he's the head of, he's a very important man. That's why he's talking more and more about getting basically like a central bank, and he's talking about all these global issues, and he's calling for things because he actually is running the show for the elites. So it makes sense that he go into the home of Voodoo because, well, he's the head of the Luciferians, right? Unconditional surrender to the law of the market and finance. So he says here, upon arrival, Pope urged Africans to avoid the unconditional surrender to the law of the market and finance. So you can interpret it how you may. It says here, exasperated and useless nationalism or tribalism that can be deadly, extreme politicization, whatever, interreligious tensions to the detriment of the common good. Ooh, the common good, and who defines that? And finally, the erosion of human, cultural, ethical, and religious values. So, tribalism, right? Moving on, Pope delivers spiritual roadmap for Africa. 87-page guide or treatise. So there you go. Also interesting, I've never heard this connection before about Prince William being the Antichrist. I saw one video just recently, and I couldn't find it again, but they were just showing pictures of it. And the main thing that I wanted to get to, besides this little connection, basically saying that he's going to come out, Prince William, and he's going to be the one that's going to come out with this promise of peace, 4 years of peace and stuff like that, and a referendum he's going to issue. But there was all kinds of pictures this individual who made this video was showing about how the royal family actually promotes Islam. I'm not bashing Muslims. I'm just saying, or their religion. I'm just saying that I saw a bunch of pictures of them wearing all kinds of Muslim outfits and promoting it and stuff like that, and yet at the same time they're supposedly fighting against radical extremism. And there's many different reasons for it, but Hitler actually also had all the Muslim countries behind him too. But they thought that they were just fighting the Zionist Britain and that, so everybody gets played in the end, really. British royalty dined on human flesh, but don't worry, it was 300 years ago. That's right, talking about cannibalism. And next up, we have British royals used to be cannibals, dining on human flesh. And let's not forget that just about a week ago, about 3 weeks ago, you had Prince William and that coming out talking about reserving lands in Transylvania because they had relatives, Vlad the Impaler. That's right. So it's moving on here. We have Wycliffe Jean squandered Haitian relief funds, says a report. So if he were president, he'd be elected on Friday, assassinated on Saturday, and according to him, buried on Sunday. But he never made it because they had another shill puppet take over Martelli, who wants to install basically the Haitian military again. It says here, American donors gave $1.4 billion to Haiti aid, but roughly 38% of that sum has been spent to provide recovery and rebuilding. Then next up, we have Red Cross to misuse of funds for Haiti sparks protest. Americans continue to pack on the pound, says a report. Ohio puts 200-pound third grader in foster care. So this is the first one where they took a child out of the family and placed it into foster care because of this is directly after I reported on a Wisconsin couple having been charged with 1 felony count of child neglect because they were accused of starving their baby to keep her from becoming obese. Why? Because they would take her kids. So why would the government do that? Why would the families be concerned about it? Global governments must get tough on obesity. That's what they say. UK women are the fattest in Europe. Next up is the U.S. foreign policy feeding the obesity epidemic. Some people think it is. Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign is actually helping people get bullied. Then next up, And the woman that actually headed up this campaign said that it was a horrible program because they didn't actually care about health. They just cared if you looked thin. If you were thin, that's all they care about. As the economy best birth control, U.S. birth dips again. WHO links child mortality to economic warfare/crisis. Japan's singletons hit record high. Then Generation Y, life is a relationship-free zone. Remember, I covered that. Barren Britain, 90% of women are childless at menopause. Successful and childless, the career women from Generation X will have it all, except a family. Congratulations, females. Women's pay to overtake men's by 2020. Finishing off, out for the count, why levels of sperm in men are falling. I wonder why. South Africa, birth control for men. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you. God bless us.